handicapped. They can't do anything. Because you see, when the government doesn't have that will to ensure that agreements and others are implemented, then we'll start having problems. We'll move from 0 to 0. That's what we'll do. We'll be in the same circle every time. Because we do not have that political will to ensure that the right thing is done at all times.
There's been a lot of criticism talking about this strike, impending strike, NAD's threats, and the issue of strike, just like Victor mentioned now, you also putting into consideration lives that might be lost. Now, this strike is an indefinite strike. You're not even giving a time to it to say, okay, it's starting from August 10 to maybe a 5-day strike or a 2-day strike. We do not know. Hopefully, there will be no strike. But let's assume there is going to be strike. Are there measures doctors are also putting in place to make sure that patients who are left in the hospital at that moment do not face severe crises?
It's quite unfortunate. And you see, for me, I don't feel comfortable staying back at home. As a doctor, you would hardly see a doctor who will be happy to stay back at home not working. You would hardly see doctors who are interested in industrial actions. Before we would get to industrial actions, there had been a lot of efforts on the side of NAD to say that we're giving ultimatum upon ultimatum. This is not the first time we'll give ultimatum to the government to say that, come this time, we are going to embark on an industrial action. The same thing happens in Luth. Before an industrial action was embarked upon, there have been ultimatum upon ultimatum. You keep asking, you keep giving that long rope to the government, and then you're not getting results. And then you'll just be left with no other option than to use the best arsenal you think you have. That's the last resort. But again, I'm very optimistic because I particularly would not want a strike. But it is just an inevitable thing if the government is not heeding our calls.
Okay, based on all these demands, the 6 demands, it feels like virtually all is about salary, remuneration, basically about money. Apart from the welfare in terms of physical assault on healthcare workers that was mentioned. Now, when we talk about, federal government also intervening, we understand sometimes the federal government also cannot do everything. There are measures that should be put in place by management of those hospitals. There are steps management could also put in place. For instance, security, talking of security and protection of healthcare workers. Now, what are those things, personally, doctors, those steps doctors have made in terms of the welfare? And I'm talking of the assault on doctors before taking it to the federal level. Are there steps you've taken before adding it to these demands?
Thank you so much. You see, when you mentioned that it's just one of all the 6 demands that is not centered on finances, I beg to disagree. You see, when it comes to the problems of house officers, you see, they are workers. They have budgeted allocation for their salaries. So the salaries are there. What we're talking about is the delay in the payment of those salaries, not because there is no fund to pay them, but because the system being used to pay them is not working. There are a lot of bureaucratic bottlenecks to that system. And that is why they're not being paid. So we've suggested that get another platform that could pay these house officers as a when due. So that is not, it doesn't have anything to do with financial backing. It is just the policy and then the platform with which they are being paid. On the issue of assault, of course, you know that before we push to national level, a lot of local and decentralized things must have been done. So we've done a lot of work. UCH, for instance, has protocols on assault. Every other institution has same too. In fact, at the last ordinary general meeting of NAD, we charged all the caucuses, the regions, to go get policy documents on zero tolerance to violence against healthcare workers. All has been done. Everyone has done their job, and this has been submitted to NAD and also transmitted to the federal government to ensure that it becomes a law. Let's push this policy document to the National Assembly, so that it can become a law.
All right, as we begin to wind down this segment this morning, are there other things you think that can be done by NAD apart from going on strike? What other measures do you think you can put in place to continue this negotiation, even while August 10, the negotiation process hits August 10, the date that has been said? Are there other things you can do apart from embarking on strike for the sake of the lives that will be at stake?
Thank you so much. NAD is doing a lot. when it comes to considering poor Nigerians, considering those that cannot seek medical tourism abroad because of finances. Now, these are the issues. You see, NAD will not just stand up one day to say that we have to embark on industrial action. It really has to do with a lot of failed engagements. So at every time, even right now, we have a lot of meetings, we have different stakeholders meetings going on to ensure that this strike doesn't hold. If I remember that arising from our meeting, I have this feeling that why should it be strike every time? Not because we want to go on strike. You see, these matters we're talking about are not privileges. They are accrued, accrued benefits that are supposed to be for the healthcare workers. They are salaries. They've worked for this money. We've worked for the money. We've worked for all of these remunerations. And then pay us all of this money. You're not paying them. Right. And then you're coming back to say that, okay, you pay at so and so time. And then those times reach and then you're not paying. Let me also mention that it is when you threaten strike, that minutes is when federal government now stand up to our responsibility and start making moves to do the right thing.
Unfortunately.
Dr. Uthman Adedeji, we hope that the demands will be met as when due this time around, and we hope that we will not have any reason for strike anymore. But we have to.
Yes, we have to go. But based on what the president of NAD said now and the negotiation process ongoing, when are we expecting a result? An outcome, a positive outcome for that matter? Is there also a timeline or a time frame for that?
Well, the last time I checked, as at yesterday, the NAD president mentioned that a week was given for all of those issues to be resolved. After which we call the National Executive Council meeting again, an emergency meeting, to talk about the current gains that have been met, and then would see if there will be a need to proceed on industrial action.
All right, we hope there will be no need to proceed on that industrial action. And of course, we do not really want to see you again in our studio this year, talking of the issue of NAD and of course, healthcare system in Nigeria. But here we have to anchor on this conversation this morning. We've been talking to the President, Association of Resident Doctors, ARD-UCH, Ibadan chapter, Dr. Uthman Adedeji. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Win big in the Milo Text and Win promo. Yes, 6 brand new cars, along with billions in airtime and cash prizes are up for grabs. Just buy any 20-gram Milo promo sachet, find a unique code inside, then dial *8011*4#. Or scan the QR code on the pack for a chance to win big. Buy more, win more. Promo starts July 1st to October. Milo. Milo.
Super Malt Multivitamin Active Teens. Super Malt Multivitamin Active Teens. Shine on.
very much for sticking around with us. Yes, indeed, we are shifting the conversation right about now, and we are actually doing something different because there are historians who write books, and there are historians who become part of the history that they very much preserve. And today, Ibadan continues in the morning of one of its finest sons. That's the Abese Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oleye Lekan Alabi, who was a journalist, author, public relations expert, cultural ambassador, traditional chief, public servants, above all, a tireless custodian of the history and the identity of Ibadan land. Tributes are continuing to pour in from different quarters across Nigeria, and we'll remember not only the life of a very remarkable communicator, but also the legacy of a man who spent decades ensuring that the story of Ibadan would never, never be forgotten. And to join us in paying tributes is an erudite lawyer, the President General, one of the finest sons of Ibadan land, as the President General of the Central Council of Ibadan Indigenes, CCII, Chief Ajini Ajewole. You're welcome this morning.
Good morning.
Well,
Thank you for having me here today.
it is interesting times for us in Ibadan here, where we are actually celebrating the legacy that has been left behind by someone who I see as the custodian of the culture, someone who likes to retell the story of how it has happened, of events that unfolded all through history. How is this moment for you?
Thank you. Let me first of all thank you and thank BCOS, and also give my condolences to the Olubadan of Ibadan land, Oba Rashidi Adewolu Ladoja Arusawan. Please help me say Kabiyesi.
Kabiyesi, sir.
And the good people of Ibadan land for the demise of Oloye Lekan Alabi. I must confess, it's a personal loss to me because of my closeness to him, through issues that, has to do with Ibadan land. And it's a big loss to the whole of Ibadan, sons and daughters, within and in diaspora. Because as you rightly pointed out, Oloye Lekan Alabi, if English will allow me to use it, is an Ibadan irredentist. A very proud Ibadan man. Culture and tradition of Ibadan land is his life itself. And he defended the cause till the last breath of his life. So one cannot describe it. Although it will have been 76 by October 27 this year, because he was born on the 27th of October 1950. And as late sage Obafemi Awolowo said, he said, it's not the life that matters, but the courage that we put into it. But the saddest part that gives me and many people a lot of concern is that Oloye Lekan Alabi was succeeded by his mother. Succeeded by his mother. No. It will be very difficult for me to describe that person called Oloye Lekan Alabi. My prayer is that may God grant him Ajana Federals.
We say amen to that. Oloye Lekan Alabi is a man who wore so many hats.
Yes.
And we will say it's definitely going to be difficult for anyone to fill his shoes and, of course, take up those challenges, those responsibilities that we all know to him, especially being a custodian of tradition.
Yes.
And now when we have someone, especially when it has to do with Ibadan tradition, do we have people who can truly be defenders of tradition when we talk of someone like Oloye Lekan Alabi?
Thank you very much. if I must confess, the gap he left may be very difficult, to fill. But we are not pessimists. And we know Ibadan's sons and daughters are people who will rise up to, accept any challenges. I'm very sure that we still have Ibadan sons that will fit in. It may not be as Oloyede Calabi, but definitely we have them in number that we now feel, this vacuum must be filled at all costs. Because if you know the beginning of Ibadan itself, it was a collection of warriors from various parts of Yoruba land that founded what we now have as Ibadan. And since then, the spirit of our founding fathers have always guided us. And that is why I believe we must not be so pessimistic and say, there won't be anybody. People will come, people will take up the challenges. But we will never forget Oloyede Calabi.
All right.
Because he was a very unique person. Is it by his dressing? Is it by the way, when you talk Oloyede, is a cultural defender by excellence. When you hear Oloyede Calabi will not speak English with anybody except you find out that person do not understand Yoruba. And what is more, it's not dependent that when he want to speak his Yoruba, he will use Ibadan dialect. You will be picking.
So you
Ibadan
can know
accent.
he's a true Ibadan man.
You will be picking Ibadan accent from his words. For example, like we now call the most popular delicacy of Ibadan. You call Amala. You won't call it Amala.
What does he call it?
Oka. You will tell no Okani. Oloyede Calabi, he looks at culture and tradition. He took those two things as religion. If Oloyede Calabi is in a gathering, he will first of all give obsession to Ibadan land. And he will let his audience understand that apart from Ibadan land, which is the highest authority, the custodian of Ibadan culture and tradition, all the chiefs line up behind him, both at the Ibadan line and the Balogun line. Are you getting me?
Yes, sir.
And he knows that if one of the traditional chiefs seniors the other, the junior one must give due respect to that person. Sitting with Oloyede Calabi will be sitting with culture of Ibadan, tradition itself. That's but definitely people will fill the gap.
Yeah, definitely. We hope people can fill that gap. Looking at his early life and his career trajectory, he was a fine journalist. And of course, a journalist par excellence. He was also a public relations expert. And we know he worked with some governors. But before we delve into that, we have a commercial break. And when we return, we'll continue on the conversation. Stay with us.
When malaria knocks you down, you can be sure parasites are having a party in your system.
Welcome to our new kingdom, guys!
Comel, an effective weapon against malaria. Attacking the parasite army directly to give you express relief and get you back on your feet effectively. Comel on, malaria gone.
All Zachariah, thank you very much for staying with us. Yes, it's still AM120 and we are paying tribute to Oloye Lekan Alabi, and we still have the President General, Central Council of Ibadan, Indigents, CCRI Chief Ajeniyi Ajewole in the studio with us. Before we went on that break, we were talking about the early years of Oloye Lekan Alabi, his career trajectory, and of course how we moved being a journalist to a public relations expert, being the chief press secretary of some governors in his early years in Oyo State, before he finally became or settled to be a good or great custodian of culture in Ibadan land. Let's look at him being a journalist and his career trajectory. How was he then?
Thank you very much. You must give it to him. The only person I know that was press secretary to 4 governors, started from the time of Bola Ige, Olurin, Sasani, who was the last person? For 4 governors. Once he was appointed by Bola Ige, all the succeeding governors inherited him. That's unusual. And that says much about the personality of Oloye Lekan Alabi. As a journalist, he's very witty. And he has great sense of humor. And that is why once you are attached to Oloye Lekan Alabi, it will be difficult for you to disengage from him. But the first time I met this man, that was in 1991. He has left journalism, he has left being a press secretary there. But that thing is always in him. The occasion was during an award that was given to me by the the Federation of Ibadan Student National Body. They gave me many awards. Many FISU, when they come, they want to identify with me because I was former national president and for what we have done before we left. On that day, I was to be given an award as well as Professor Jadesola Akade of blessed memory at Napo. So when I was introduced, Oloye Lekan Alabi embarrassed me by his question. And I said, I'm from Koko Imeda, and my mother is from Ile Olubodun, Gege. He now asked me a question about something they use as a playing ground at Gege, which definitely I will not know. Because my place is Koko Imeda. His own compound is near Gege, that is a Jengbe compound. So where he used to play when he was so I couldn't answer that question. I said, I don't know. It was Professor Jadesola Akade that now saved me. Jadesola Akade now gave a long history of the relation of my mother with her own mother, which is the first educated Iyalode of Ibadan. That is Chief Esran, Ura Olesran. So she was able to clear any doubt about my parentage at Olubodun compound. But since then, Chief Oloye Akande have a lot of respect for me. Anytime, my bro, because he is by excellence a public relation man. Even not on work, as an individual, as an Ibadan man.
Personal relationship.
As personal relations by excellence. So, when in journalism, he was only very factual. He speaks the truth. Go and look at his interviews. Go and look at his writings. He will speak the truth and is ready to speak the truth to even the power. To the people in power. That's the same. And that is why You journalists, I know you can never forget the man.
Now, Chief, while you were speaking, I was looking through his times and his early days. Would you say his times where he was starting, at the likes of Onibonje, all these other places, even becoming a pioneer editorial staff here at BCOS,
Yes.
he was also the first.
TSOS there.
TSOS.
Yes, TSOS. Yes. And he was the first reporter to appear on air.
Yes.
Actually, he was also the first chairman of our NUJ chapter.
Yes.
Would you say those times prepared him to be the chief press secretary to all those four governors?
Thank you very much. Yes. If you know how he became the press secretary of Chibolagi himself, he was here in TSOS. Then there was a dinner. He told me this personally, organized by the governor. Ole Lekalabi was there with his wife. So during the course of the dinner, Ole Lekalabi now asked the governor a question. And what was it? He said, Excellency, I know your wife is a high court judge. Now, who prepared the meals at home? Is it the high court judge or the staff here? He said, I'm asking this question because I want my wife to know the role he will play in future. Then Chibolagi, Cicero, answer him politely that no, my wife is a high court judge. He try as much as possible to prepare my meal. But where that is not possible, the staff will do that. It was the third day after that dinner that he was invited to join. He was posted from here, to Governor's office, and he became a press secretary. Joining, I think about two of them were already there before. So we joined them, and that was how he rose up because of his dedication, loyalty, speaking the truth, being very cultural in dress, in anything, good representation of the government anywhere. That was why he was able to be press secretary for the. And if you look at his background as a student, in fact, I would say that is where he started thinking of becoming a journalist. He once told me one time that, look, before journalism, I was thinking I'd be a premier. That is what he want to be, premier of Western regions. Because his late paternal grandmother was a politician. And people used to come to their in large number, people like Akintola, SLEC, and so on. So with that, he used to believe that, why can't I? But later on in life, he realized that he cannot join politics because of the murky water of politics. So he chose journalism, and God has blessed him so much in that profession.
All right, thank you so much, Chief. Moving away from his career now as being a journalist, let's look at him as a very cultural individual and his roles in public opinions in Oyo State and Ibadan, to be precise, and of course, the policies he has joined policymakers to establish in Ibadan. How was that moment for him? And when we talk about someone who is very cultural, looking at him alone, you could tell, because at some point, you could just always see him. He was just always on Ashoke.
Yes.
And he has a specific style of making those Ashoke. Of course.
And his cap.
And his cap, which, yes, his cap. Which was a very good representation, or good representative of Ibadan land, Yoruba culture. Now, how was this moment for him when he transitioned, eventually being a policymaker, a custodian of tradition, a good cultural individual?
Well, unfortunately, is no more here to to give us an insight to how he developed those traits. But let me tell you one thing. When you see a man who decide to move even with younger people, most of the time, after he left this, practicing journalism, and you will see most of the time at Omajorosu Club with young people surrounding him for one advice, or especially culturally. Don't forget, he's been a cultured man, he's even beyond the burden. The Honor of Ife gave him the ambassador of culture of Yoruba land. And like what you said, is dressing alone. When you talk of culture, you talk of language, you talk of food, you talk of dressing. This man has everything. I told you, he will not speak English with you unless he find out that you can't understand Yoruba. That is on the issue. Language. On the issue of food, it's already, the style is to eat Ibadan delicacy. That is oka. Pẹ̀lú ewédú àti gbẹ̀gìrì, which you call abula. That is it. At any time. If his cloth is not as okay, what he will wear will also show that it's from Ibadan. Because of the way, I don't think I've met him anywhere wearing shirt or trouser. No. He was a cultural man by excellence. And he has influenced a lot of us in Ibadan. I must confess, we used to have this Ibadan festival. His dressing has influenced many clubs of CCI in the way they dress. And if you look at that of last year, you see us okay. Yes. You see Arana, you see. So things are moving because he has imbibed it in us. And he's true rest in perfect peace.
Amen. Still on him being a cultural person, yes. We know he has mentored a lot of people.
A lot.
But what are those things you would want to say to the younger generations now in terms of our culture?
Yes.
We see a lot of people sometimes not even proud of speaking our local dialects. A lot of people prefer, or the younger generations prefer to speak in English and neglect Yoruba, to be precise now, or their other local dialects. Now, what encouragement? How do we ensure that we continue in the legacies Oloyele Kwalabi has laid down for us?
Our younger generation must first realize one thing. Oloyele Kwalabi was highly educated, a journalist. Definitely it's not Yoruba he will be using, although he writes a lot of books, both in English language and Yoruba. It was one time at Boom Boom newspaper, that's Yoruba. Yes. Now, he can speak English better than an Englishman, but he chose to be cultural because the Yoruba will say, Odo tó bá gbàgbé orísun rẹ̀ yóò gbẹ. Once we lose our identity, culturally, traditionally, we have lost everything. That is what people should know. Once we lose our identity, culturally and traditionally, we have lost everything. As a matter of fact, in Ibadan land and Yoruba in general, the way we hold our culture, the fear of using Yoruba as a communicating language, the way of dressing has affected us morally, economically, and socially. Our generation should understand. The Yoruba you are now, finding it difficult to express yourself, are now being taught in foreign countries like Brazil, like Cuba, even like America. We don't want a situation where it is the white people that will be coming here to lecture us, to teach us Yoruba.
Indeed.
So we should be careful. And we should know that our culture, our traditions, our identity, we must not lose it.
And I think we should harp more on
Yes.
this because we realize that even China now produces ashoke.
Yes.
We are seeing that happen now, and it feels like if we are not careful, we will begin to lose
yes.
our relevance, even in our cultural heritage. How do we begin to make sure, ensure, and this also taking it back to the home units now, because we are seeing that a lot of these issues it starts with parents.
That is true.
Parents would say children should only speak English in
language.
the house. Parents do not encourage cultural attire.
Yes.
And even schools, how well should all these cultural culture be inculcated from the home units and also the school?
Thank you very much. Professor Bafafunwa, oh bless him, he was a great educationist. At University of Ife, they performed, some experiments concerning the use of local language to teach. At the end of the day, it was found that pupils that were taught in local languages learn better and faster than people that were taught in English language. That is what people should know. Family is the smallest unit of the society. And like what you said, that is where the whole thing starts. Our parents must encourage their children to speak Yoruba. It helps them in learning. There's no way when you want to learn something, the first thought in your mind, it will come from your own local language. Before you take up the interpretation
in English.
Yes. So then the schools, our government must make it compulsory. Not two steps forward, one step backward. It should be made compulsory that our culture is really encouraged, both in primary school. I remember when we were in primary school then, we used to have cultural days.
Yes.
That is when we'll be able to showcase our asoke, our aswadire, and so on and so forth. But no, go to many primary school festival now. They prefer using so the government itself must make it compulsory that our culture and tradition is promoted far and above foreign culture. And that is what can help us.
Well, it is indeed very beautiful that we have gotten to, actually revisit the times and the life and the legacy of the late Oloye Lekan Alabi. But then, of course, I don't know, are there plans to maybe immortalize him or his works, his legacy, maybe an archive of sorts or something, so that everything that is left behind do not just go away?
By the special grace of God. For example, we in the Central Council by the Indigenous, this is money time. We are so confused because we don't expect this to come. We don't expect it to come, but I'm very sure, not only the CCI, many cultural groups in Ibadan, many educationists who are in Ibadan, many groups will think of a way to mortalize him. We can't just forget him. And I'm very sure that will be done. At our own level, something concrete will be done as a legacy for Oloye Lekan Alabi. It's not someone you can just forget.
Okay.
And I'm very sure even the family, this man is a colossal son of Badalan. is a famous son. He was a famous son by the land. He put our tradition and culture on the map of the world. It's not just an ordinary person, I must tell you.
But apart
Something will
from
be done
the
by government.
culture, Chief, apart from the culture that he fought for, he made sure it was preserved.
Yes.
What other causes are we going to remember Oloyele Kwalabi for?
Let me tell you, you will remember him for uniting a lot of people. I told you, most of his friends are younger folks. If there's any problem, the first person anybody will think of for calling Ibadan land to resolve that problem was Oloyele Kwalabi. Because he will always be ready. Give him an assignment. No. And he was always time conscious, very punctual to event. If you say something is 12 o'clock, I'm very sure we'll be there 5 minutes to 12. As such a man, a well-organized person, he organized himself. And you don't quarrel with him and win an argument because he will have a lot of encounters with him concerning Ibadan culture, concerning Ibadan tradition, concerning Ibadan issues. You drink from his fountain of knowledge and experience. So, not only culture, but I won't say he was a perfect person. No one is perfect. But Oloyele Kwalabi was a person all of us are very proud of.
Indeed, we are very proud of him.
Yes.
I think it's also good to note that he was a custodian of history.
Ow.
And I remember sometimes when we go to him for interview, he would give us history first.
Thank you very much.
Before answering, going straight to those questions.
Not only Wisi,
Yes.
of music also. You know, all this cultural. If Oloyele Kwalabi tells you about Olatunji Babalegba, if he speaks of barista, if he speaks of Sani Ade, or any, you will be wondering. If he speaks of even our local musician in Ibadan here, like Tatalo, that man is, you know, he has a computer brain on everything. If it's same for you, you'll be wondering that is this just a journalist?
All right, Chief, thank you so much. As we begin to wrap up on this segment, that's to pay tribute to Oloyele Kwalabi. As the President General of CCII, what is that one message about Oloyele Kwalabi that you would want the younger generations to emulate? What's that one thing about him, the characters he possessed, that you would want the young generations to take after?
I want the younger generation to imbibe the humility, humbleness, truthfulness, fearlessness, and ability to say the truth where it matters. And I want them to also imbibe the fact that he was a very contented person. He doesn't look for wealth anyhow. Oloyele Kwalabi, if he chooses, would have been, you know, a multi-billionaire because he had the chance. But what he always says is that his name and that of his parents